Hello. Today is Thursday, November 10th, 2022. My name is Ted Gordon, and I'm interviewing Regent Jodie Lee Jiles for the Commemoration and Contextualization Initiative. We're in the Lates studio on the University of Texas at Austin campus. Thank you, Regent Jiles, for agreeing to do this interview.
Thank you, Ted.
All right. This interview is being recorded, and the unedited copy will be housed at the Briscoe Center at UT. Please know that if there's anything you do not wish to discuss, I will honor your wishes. If there are topics you wish to discuss and I haven't asked about it, please do bring them up. And if we need to take a break for any reason, just let us know. Okay, so let's start out a little bit with your growing up in Texas. Where you come from? What are your memories of coming up and things like that?
A great question, Ted. Thank you. First of all, I was poor and didn't know that I was poor. And I wouldn't change a thing. I grew up in a community called Fifth Ward. And the neighborhood I grew up in, they called Pearl Harbor. Fifth Ward was called the Bloody Fifth.
Yep.
And just those two statements talks about how my neighborhood was perceived. But there's a big difference between perception and reality. Reality is we were a community. Reality is we had neighborhood schools. Reality is the teachers knew my grandmother. Reality is they cared. We had churches, we had schools, we had neighbors that watched out for us, and I had my grandmother and my mama. They were all there for me. And so you can have the title Bloody Fifth, you could have the title Pearl Harbor, but you look down inside and you have a community that cares. That's how I grew up.
Can you tell me something about your family? You started a little bit about that, but what more can you tell me?
It's interesting. My mom, I had three sisters and myself, the fourth. And my mom was a maid at a hotel, and ultimately, when she retired as a maid from Houston Independent School District. My grandmother lived along with her husband, who ultimately passed. And my three sisters and I lived with my mom until the fourth grade. In the fourth grade, I moved over with my grandmama, and my mom stayed and the three sisters stayed together. And what happened now was that my grandmother was an interesting lady. She was very firm, and she basically understood the neighborhood we grew up in. And the thing that she did, Ted, that was really important, she let me be my own person. She let me walk in the neighborhood, let me go where I needed to go. But I learned a lesson there, and here's the lesson. The lesson was real simple. My grandmother was there to make sure I did right. But she gave me, as a young man, elementary school, all the way through high school, she gave me the ability to choose between right and wrong. Now, the flip side of that was I knew the consequences if I went the wrong path, and I didn't want to face those consequences because my grandmother said, specifically, she only whooped me once. And my reply to that was, but Big Mama, you didn't tell them how you whooped them. So I always had an opportunity to choose between right and wrong. And I chose the right path most of, if not all of the time, because I understood the consequences from my grandmother. And that really helped me tremendously become a better person. Because in life, you have to make choices. And when you can make the choice between right and wrong, and you start early, that's a lesson all by itself.
Lesson by itself. What did your grandmother and your mother feel about education? What was the...
My grandmother, my mother, they were extremely proud of me because, one, I went to school every day. Again, there's consequences if I don't. And two, I graduated from high school. And that was big in my family. I graduated from high school. So they were proud of me. They didn't go to college. They didn't, I don't think either one of them graduated from high school. And so for me to graduate from high school was a big deal.
Were your sisters able to graduate?
Yes, yes.
So everybody graduated.
From high school, right.
And did they have the expectation that you would then go on after high school, or?
No, no. Graduating from high school was big. That was it. I chose to go on. And it was interesting. I went to work for Hughes Tool and wasn't thinking about college. Then I was young then, and so I would go out to the nightclubs and move around and have fun like everybody else. And all of a sudden, I noticed that so many people that I graduated from high school with, they were all going to Texas Southern. So after a year of working at Hughes Tool and seeing my friends having gone to Texas Southern, I said to myself, Self, you better get into college. So I went to Texas Southern University, majored in accounting, and graduated 4 years after that. For 3 of those 4 years, I worked at Hughes Tool. The 4th year, I didn't work. I focused more on classwork. And in addition to that, I was president of the student body at the undergraduate school at Texas Southern Business School. And that was a great experience for me. And that's when I first got involved in leadership and understanding leadership by being elected president of the business school student body. They call it the Mac Hanna Business School. And so that got me involved in leading. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that.
I want to get back to that, but let me go back a little bit further in history. So where did you go to elementary school?
Elementary school, I went to neighborhood elementary school, and it was called Crawford Elementary School.
Crawford, right.
And what happened there was that the school was 2 blocks away from my home. And the teachers parked on the street by my home. So my grandmother knew the teachers, and the teachers knew my grandmother. And I have to tell you a quick story, 2 quick stories. One, the principal, they knew me, and I had done something at school, and the principal said, Jodie, do you want me to whoop you, or do you want me to tell your grandmother? And I told him, his name was Mr. Henderson. I said, Mr. Henderson, please whoop me. Yeah. And so that, again, that's the choice between consequences, and my grandmother was a consequence. And the second thing I learned, and we can get back to this, Ted, and we need to get back to this because it's critically important, and that is Mr. Henderson said something that I use in my speeches today. Mr. Henderson said, good, better, best. Never let it rest, because your good becomes better and your better becomes best. Simply put, that means always, always do your best. And I raised my sons on that. And I told my boys that at the end of the day, if they did their best, who could ask for anything more? That's a lesson I learned from Mr. Henderson in elementary school at Crawford Elementary.
So you say the teachers all knew your grandmother. So did they all live kind of nearby in the neighborhood?
No. They didn't live in the neighborhood. But they some of them knew my grandmother. Then the other ones, they just took a liking to me. And I learned a lot from them. Some were very firm. Some were would throw a piece of chalk if you're acting up. And I admired my teachers. To this day, if I see a teacher, they are not first name basis. They are Mr. or Mrs. End of story. That's the respect I have for teachers. And today that respect continues because the teachers in the classroom is where the tie and the rubber meets the road, and that's what education is all about.
So this was a segregated school back in that day?
Yes, yes,
And all the teachers were black as well?
yes,
But they lived in other neighborhoods,
yes,
kind of?
yes, other neighborhoods.
And did your granny have you in church and all that?
My grandmother was a member of church. She wasn't a regular church goer, but she had a church. And there was a little church down the street from my house. There was one church right on the corner from my house. And for some reason, I never went to that church. I went to the Boy Scout program there, and for some reason that didn't work out. I bought a uniform, but it just didn't work out. But there was a little church right down the street from my home, and I would go down there. I just walked under the underpass, and there was the church. I think it was called Ebenezer Baptist Church. And I just went. And I would go in the evening sometime, BYU. And so, yes, church.
Was that unusual for young people in your community, or is that, other young folks
Well,
were
some
going?
of the folks in the community went to the church on the corner. And we didn't talk about church a lot, or what we did at church. So church was not a big subject matter.
All right, and so did you go to middle school, or is it directly to high school?
I
Or
went to middle
happened?
school. Middle school, I walked to middle school. It was maybe 10, 12, 13 blocks away. So I would walk down to middle school. And middle school was called E.O. Smith Middle School. And it was, that's why I went to middle school. I started working when I got well, first of all, what I used to do, in the middle school, I would shine shoes. I had a little shoe box where I walked to the neighborhood and would shine shoes and get 25, 50 cents and bring it back home, mostly to my mom. And then I would carry bags in front of the grocery store. I was always figuring out a way to earn a little extra change. And later on, when I got to the 7th, 8th grade, something like that, maybe 9th grade, because school went through the 9th grade there. And I would go and start actually catching a bus and going to wash pots. And I washed pots at Lennox Barbecue in Houston on the East End. I washed pots from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. Wow. This was an after-school job, from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. So I was going to school, catching a bus, washing pots at night, and then going back home at 10 o'clock or so.
Well, that's very entrepreneurial for a young person. So is that something that other folks, kids, young people in your neighborhood were doing, or something that your granny urged you to do, or you just had that?
I guess I had that in me, but there was somebody from the neighborhood that was working in Lennox, so that helped me get over there to get a job. And so it was unusual, but it was just my working spirit.
Your working spirit in terms of that. And then, so where did you go to high school?
High school, I went to Phyllis Wheatley High School.
Phyllis Wheatley.
And there's a lot of great folks that went to Phyllis Wheatley High School. Barbara Jordan is one, Mickey Leland is one, Commissioner Franco Lee, who was state representative, Harold Dutton, Ruth Simmons. Wheatley has...
Simmons went to Yates.
No, Ruth Simmons went to Phyllis Wheatley.
She went to Wheatley?
Don't let anybody or anything tell you any different. And if you told her she went to Yates, she would stop you in your tracks and say, I went to Phyllis Wheatley High School. And
All right.
And so what's interesting about that is What's interesting about that is all of my school experiences, I had teacher support. When I went from elementary school to middle school, I was thinking I wanted to play the drums. But my elementary school glee club teacher called the teacher at E.O. Smith and said, hey, he wants to be in the band. They were going to give me an instrument.
Wow.
They were going to give me an instrument. And so what happened was that I decided to join the boys' glee club instead of, but they were going to give me an instrument.
Wow.
But that's an example of teachers caring. And when I went to high school, I sung in the glee club there. I'm not a singer, but I just enjoyed it. And the good news is that for every program I was in, my mama was in that audience.
Wow.
And that was always rewarding. And I appreciated it so much. But now to get back to Wheatley, all those great people went to Wheatley, and one of my highest honors at Wheatley is that Wheatley has a wall of fame. And I was fortunate to be put on that wall of fame.
All right, there you go. Congratulations on that.
Oh man, that's to me that was a big deal.
Did that happen recently? When did they?
Oh, it had to be about 10 years
10
ago.
years ago.
Yeah, yeah, about 10 years ago.
And so, so first of all, I'm interested in the Glee Club. What were you, a tenor, a baritone, a bass? What did you sing
I would
over
say
there?
I was more of a baritone. I still think I can sing a little bit, but my wife is a singer. Yeah, she has a beautiful voice.
All right, sounds good. And then, do you remember any particular teachers? Because you told me about one from elementary school. You remember any particular teachers or experiences at Wheatley that really kind of stick out in your mind as important?
This one is not a good one, but it's a lesson. It's a lesson. It's a lesson. I was in school, and there was a teacher, and I wasn't a great mathematician, and even worse in algebra. There was a teacher that basically said that I need to figure out how to do something that wouldn't require math in so many words. And to me, that was extremely the wrong thing for a teacher to say. The reason why it was the wrong thing for a teacher to say is that we should be encouraging kids,
students, yeah.
not beating them down. And I was extremely fortunate to see that teacher when I was at Texas Southern University. And that teacher said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm graduating from the business school here. I'm president of the business school student body, and I'm going to work for Arthur Young, a public accounting firm." Bam!
Wow.
Thank God.
End of conversation, huh?
End of conversation.
So Wheatley was definitely a black school also,
Yes,
right?
yes. And it was wonderful. A wonderful
And
experience.
the teachers?
The teachers were fantastic. Fantastic. I loved every one of them, even the one that said I wasn't going to, shouldn't be doing anything in math. You know, they cared, and they wanted us to succeed.
Now, were they also from the community or lived out the community, or what was how did that work? At Wheatley?
I would say not some, just a few lived in that community, but not many. Yeah.
Anything else about your high school experience that stands out?
No, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
What were you doing for kind of recreation and things like that when you were in high school?
As I stated, I worked.
Worked.
Yeah, work was my recreation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So
I was not athletic, and I did not participate in clubs.
Mm-hmm.
So my only recreation, I would say, in high school was singing in the boys' choir.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's still something.
Yeah,
So what year did you graduate from Wheatley?
1969.
69.
Yeah,
So you and I graduated my high school program in 69 too. So
Yeah.
we're right on age.
Right on the edge.
Yeah, all right. Interesting. And so,
by the way, Willie Jordan, another precursor, went
Yeah.
to Wheatley. And
Yeah.
Willie is as proud a Wheatley graduate as anybody.
yeah, I know he is.
Yeah.
He's a little bit before our time though.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But Willie Jordan.
Uh-huh. Really, yeah. He's another one who's on our stakeholders group.
Good,
For
good.
representing the precursors for these small
Tell him you made a
projects.
mistake by saying
It
Ruth
was
Simmons went to Yates.
Yates. I guess. Well, unfortunately, that's on tape, so I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
I'm in trouble. All right. So now, when you were coming up, did you and or your family, or even the schools, kind of communities that you went through, were they familiar with, or sort of think about or talk about the civil rights movement, or Sweat Painter, or
No.
you know, Emmett Till, or
No.
any of that kind of
No.
thing? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I didn't, as I stated, I had just enough time to even do homework, and definitely did not read the newspapers and things like that. But I'm extremely fortunate. My wife owns a media group, a newspaper and website, and she keeps the community informed of the pluses, the minuses, but more the pluses of the community.
Now, did you go to high school with your wife?
No.
All right, so you began talking about this a little bit before, but you were saying that you graduated from high school. You
Yes.
went to work.
Yes, I went to work at Hughes Tools.
Hughes Tools. What were you doing at Hughes Tools?
I was a laborer. I wasn't able to read all those diagrams and be a machinist. So I ended up being just a laborer at Hughes Tools. But it was a great job. Right out of high school, made more money than I've ever made in my life. But after 1 year at Hughes Tools, again, I saw my colleagues going to college, so I went to college, worked 3 more years at Hughes Tools, a total of 4. And my last year, senior year at Texas Southern, I didn't work at all.
And so, what was the Texas Southern experience like? Was that a positive experience for you?
Texas Southern experience was incredibly positive. I didn't know the first thing about going to college. I just kind of walked in the door. And in Fifth Ward, we would wear hats. So as a freshman, I would wear my Fifth Ward hats to school. And then as I went a little further, I stopped wearing my hat. It just wasn't something that we did at TSU. And TSU was a great experience for me. It gave me exposure to college level education. I had a lot of catching up to do because I wasn't on a roll in elementary school. So I had a lot of catching up to do and a lot of work to do. Thank God for Grammarly Check today. You know, I had to really get there. I had to really get there on grammar and English and all that good stuff. But I'm there today. But Texas Southern, a couple of things happened at Texas Southern. And again, it's life's lesson. And it goes right back with good, better, best, never let it rest, because your good becomes better and your better becomes best. There was a professor at Texas Southern. His name was Wendell Gunn. And the professor said to me, Jodie, you basically just stand right at the level of where the class is. You should do your best. You should give it your all. And that goes right back to giving your best and take it to the level, which basically means get in there and whatever it takes to get it done and do your best at doing it, regardless of where everything, if there's a norm or if there's a level of expectation, exceed it by really applying yourself. And therefore, my attitude today is, I might not be a rocket scientist, but you can't outwork me. And I know how to prepare.
Now, this Professor Gunn, what classes did he teach, or what was his?
He taught finance.
Finance.
Yeah.
So how did you get into it? So you've already been told that you didn't do well with math and all that.
How did I get into accounting?
How did that happen?
Accounting paid the most coming out of undergrad school.
That's right.
Yeah. So I went for the dollars. Yeah, I sure did.
And did you have problems with that? Because it sounds like your math background wasn't all that fabulous.
Did okay. I did okay. I wasn't at the top of the honor roll, wasn't at the top of the list, but I did okay. And I ended up landing a job with Arthur Young, Big 8 accounting firm.
That's right.
And Arthur Young is my transition to UT because when I got into the accounting firm, I clearly observed that my skills were not at the level that it should be. And that didn't have anything to do with Texas Southern or its great teachers. That had everything to do with me in terms of my preparation. You have to be prepared. And so I was fortunate to have the people at Arthur Young and UT being the #1 accounting school in the country. I came in on probation. And when I came in on probation, that meant that you had to maintain a B average.
That's right.
And I was so glad that I got admitted on probation. And when I got here, I had maybe 2 to 3 years of public accounting experience. So that helped me in the accounting program. There was one professor that I just loved to death, and that's Reuben McDaniels. Reuben taught delivery of human services. And boy, was he was a dynamo. And that big roaring preacher voice. And but he cared and he made a difference. Then I had other professors in the accounting department, and it was a great experience. I ended up being on the Graduate Business Council and being elected member of the Graduate Business Council. And then I ended up working 20 hours a week at the City of Austin in their budget department while I was in school.
While you were in school.
And then there was a guy in the business school, his name is Jess Todden. Jess Todden helped me get a job in Houston during the summer at IBM. And I learned a lot there. And IBM actually offered me a job. And what they said to me, why they wanted me to join the team, was that I came in, it was like I was not new at all. It was like I was a part of the team. You get right in there and build those relationships, you become a part of the team, and you give it your best. And so they offered me a job. I didn't take it because I felt like I left Arthur Young on a leave of absence and I wanted to go back. But it was a great experience for me, and I really enjoyed it. And I didn't go to IBM because back during those days, they said the IBM meant I will be moved, which means you'll move all over the country.
You end up in New York or
And I
someplace
wanted
like
to stay in Texas. I want to stay in Houston, really.
Well, let me stop. Take us back to Texas TSU.
Yes.
And come back up. So at TSU, you worked your way through school.
Yes, absolutely.
And where did you live? Did you live?
I
Did you stay
lived-
living at home?
I lived with my
home?
grandmother.
With your grandmother.
Yeah.
During the whole time.
Yeah, during the whole time.
And did she support you? You know, sort of
No,
your.
I kind of, as old folks say, earned my keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But my grandmother took care of me in every way. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't even really thinking financially. I was thinking in terms of kind of whether she was in favor of you getting, you know,
Oh, big
getting that
time,
and all.
big time. The more education, the better. My grandmother and my mama and my daddy. Yeah.
All right, good. And then for kind of recreation, because I know you're working and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Do you have any kind of recreational at TSU or anything like that? Were you a fraternity member or
At
anything?
no. Again, work dictates.
Yeah.
At TSU, I tried to play tennis a little bit, not in a team, but they had a tennis court, so I did that. And that's probably with my senior year. But mainly, I went to work at Hughes Tool, came to school, went home, did what I could do, woke up and went back to work at Hughes Tool, and went back to school. And sometimes that was 11 to 7 shift, sometimes that was the 3 to 11 shift.
Wow.
So I had to be flexible. And so I worked my way through school. Yeah. And graduated in 4 years by doing that.
And so you graduated in what year?
70 to 74.
74.
Yeah.
Came out in 74. And then, and so then you went to work for
I worked for Arthur Young from
Arthur Young.
74 to 77. And 77 to 79, I was in the graduate school of business. And let me tell you, in the graduate school of business, there's another person that I have to mention, and that's Bill Cunningham. Bill Cunningham, as my grandmother would say, he was good to me. And he and I are the best friends today. He cared, he made a difference, and he did something else. He said, Jodie, basically, you've been a great citizen of this school. And he said it in front of the professor that let me in on probation. Oh man, I felt like the Toyota commercial jumping. But Bill Cunningham was associate dean or assistant dean under Kosminski Dean. And he went from there to being dean, then president, then chancellor. And Bill Cunningham is my great friend today, and I love him. He was there for me. Yeah, he was there for me.
So when you were thinking about going to graduate school, did you think about any other place besides UT, or is that the only place
I
that
looked at some of the other schools. I looked at Northwestern, and again, I didn't want to leave Texas. I thought about some of the Ivy League schools, but that wasn't for me. UT was for me. Yeah.
And did you have any feel for what was the reputation of UT in Houston in the African American community?
Well, I don't know the reputation in the African American community. I know that in the accounting community, and especially at Arthur Young, UT was a powerhouse.
Was it?
Yeah, it was it. So I can't begin to tell you the perception of UT in the African American community. I just knew that I was going. Yeah, and I got admitted.
And did you have any hesitation or any fears about it when you got ready to go?
You know, the good news is that I was at Arthur Young, and so I felt as if I knew some stuff, and I really did. It's incredible what you learn and what you pick up. And what I would do is, when I got here, some of the younger kids and some of the younger African American kids, I would talk to them about public accounting and what it was like. And then that public accounting experience also helped me in terms of working on teams and working with others. I was able to let them analyze things and make quick decisions and get things done. So that experience I gained at Arthur Young was extremely beneficial. And I never would have known it was beneficial unless I was in the graduate school environment.
Yeah. So Arthur Young must have been relatively recently integrated too, in terms of you must have been one of the first
I was.
black accountants over
I
there.
was. I was one of the first African American accountants at Arthur Young, and the first that they recruited from Texas Southern University. Yeah.
And what did you have that was so special that they were ready to recruit you like
I
that?
had more personality than I did academics. Yeah.
But you were the president of the business school class.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They must have thought about that. All right, so you arrived at UT.
Yes.
Where'd you live?
A jester. Yeah.
So as a graduate student, they had housing for.
They had a graduate
students over
wing.
there.
Yeah. They had a graduate wing. Yeah.
So this must have been 77. 77.
Yeah.
So you lived in Jester.
Yeah.
Did you live in Jester the whole time?
Pretty much. Yeah. Pretty much.
And so the business school is just
Across the
right
street.
across the street.
The good news about the business school, and this is very important. This is very important. I was not that great of a writer or a spokesperson or anything like that. Grammar was not that strong. But the business school had, in Jester, they had a program that you can go to learn how to take notes, write papers, get
Yeah, they still do.
that they still do. I thought that program was just superb. I thought that it helped me tremendously, and I really appreciated that program. It clearly gave me added value for graduate school, and I was so thankful for it. And I would study in PCL, Perry Castaneda, and I would go over there to learn to beef up my weaknesses. And so the lesson there is that, and I talk to people about this. One, you have to be your own professional developer. You have to understand your strengths and weaknesses, and therefore you need to work on both. Build upon your strengths and work on your weaknesses. And in today's society, especially with all this internet and all that good stuff, you can really work on things for the betterment of your own professional development. And so that's my belief in being your own personal professional developer.
So at Jester, so did you have a roommate over there? Or?
I did. It was a guy from Houston, and it worked out okay. I prefer not having a roommate, but I had one.
Yeah. And that was just randomly.
Yeah, randomly
assigned.
assigned.
So, and so you and he got along okay, but didn't end up like lifelong friends.
Not
or anything
best
like
friends.
that.
Yeah.
And was that for the whole 3 years that you were there?
I was 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had the same roommate for 2 years.
Well, it's just not. I had the same roommate for a year. Yeah.
So one of the things is, where does your wife come in to all this? Now, did you?
My lovely bride. It's so interesting. It's we met each other. Again, I mentioned to you early on, I'd go to nightclubs and stuff. We met each other. She was doing public relations for a nightclub and media stuff.
Here in Austin? Or?
No, in Houston.
In Houston.
And she and I kind of said hello, and I had her phone number and all that good stuff. And she and I would call her, but she changed jobs. And when she changed jobs, I didn't have her number anymore. So it took 10 years for me to see her again.
Wow.
Yeah. And so when I saw her again after the 10 years, I basically wouldn't let her get away. She and I had a mutual friend that was giving a party, and I had a Fiat convertible. And she loved convertibles, and I didn't know that. And so I picked her up, and we went to the party together. Then we started dating, and we got married.
So you first met her when you were living in Houston in college or after college?
After
or
college.
After college.
Yeah, after college, yeah.
But before you came to UT or after you?
After
you were
UT,
here?
yeah.
Okay.
After UT,
All right.
yeah.
Interesting. So let's continue on with the UT thing. You're here for 2 years. You talked about two of your favorite professors, Bill Cunningham and Reuben McDaniel.
Yeah.
Did you know Johnny Butler at that time? Let's see, Butler was
No,
77.
I didn't know him.
Yeah, I don't
I
think he
didn't
was
know
here
him.
at
I
that
know him
point.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at that time.
And what's the guy that did the radio and all of that good stuff?
John Warfield.
John Warfield, I didn't know him, but boy, he had a big influence.
Yeah.
He had a big presence
Right.
as an African American. He was strong, and his name was really big out there.
Well, I consider him to be my principal mentor here at UT.
And he had a radio show.
I know. Well, he started a radio station, KAZI. He started that whole thing.
Yeah. I think Hopeton Hay is doing something there.
Yeah, he is. They're still.
So it's a wonderful world. Yeah, it's a round world.
So, well, actually, because at that time, when you were here in '77, the African and Afro-American Studies Center would have been right there in Jester, actually.
Yeah, well, I didn't know anything about it at that time.
Any other experiences at the business school or here in Austin? Did you get out into the community at all?
I went out on the east side to a nightclub.
Which one was that? Do you remember?
I don't remember the name, but I also would go over to church on Sundays, and that was a gathering of black folks,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And
Do you
so,
remember which church?
No, I
it
don't.
was?
I don't remember the name.
Well, there's a bunch of.
I just jump in my car and go. Yeah.
And did you used to go eat over there in like restaurants or anything like that, or
No.
And so most of your meals you took
Around here,
uh-huh.
between Jester and what they had on Guadalupe. Yeah.
And there wasn't any problem at that point in terms of eating in those places.
No, not at all.
Did you used to go to football games or any of that kind of thing?
Not that many. Yeah. It was right down the street, but I didn't go.
Now, you didn't work at the same time you were in...
I did work.
Oh, did you?
I did. I worked at the City of Austin.
Oh, that's right. You told me that.
20 hours a week.
Right.
And 5 days a week in the budget department. And just Totten helped me get that job. So.
And so you had to go, what, downtown? Where was that?
At City Hall right there. The old City Hall,
The old
not
City
the
Hall.
new City Hall.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, the old one. So that was 20 hours. That took a fair amount of your time,
It did.
just like that.
It did. And but I had to work.
Now, was that helpful in terms of,
School? It somewhat, but not much. Because school was more, it was a higher level.
And so, what about the kind of the work, school? So going to graduate school is rigorous.
Yes.
UT is it's a tough place.
It is.
And you're working 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Was there a kind of
Well,
conflict
remember
or
what
a
I said,
problem? You
roll
roll up
your
their sleeves up.
and give it your best. And that's what I did. And a lot of the UT stuff was, in graduate school, was teamwork. Now, I do have a regret. And my regret is this at graduate school. My regret is I had my master's degree. I didn't take the next step to get my PhD. It would have been just a transition to doing that.
Yeah.
And that is a humongous regret for me. And therefore, today, I talk to young people about getting that next level degree.
Yeah.
Because it
once you're
it
going.
goes so fast. Yeah.
So did any of the professors there, like Dr. Cunningham or anybody else like that, kind of suggest that to you,
No,
or just
no. It was just it came from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other kind of? So you're coming from Fifth Ward,
Yes.
and now you're in Austin, and you've been living with your grandmama,
Yes.
and now you're in some dormitory. What was the transition like between Houston and Austin and graduate school and all that kind of thing?
Well, the good news is that I would go home on the weekends. Yeah. I'd jump in my Volkswagen and go home.
So you had a Volkswagen, so you had your own car at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. And so, so you say you just go to school. Entertainment, there wasn't that much going on. Did you go to the night? Well, you say you went to one nightclub
Yeah,
at least over
and
there.
I don't
at
remember the
East
name
Austin.
of it.
Yeah, right. And what were the spaces here at UT where you felt most welcome? Or
You know, I felt welcome in the graduate school. What happens is that, and you know this much better than me, is that when you're in graduate school, the school is your community. Yeah. And you get to know people, and that's your community. That's where you are.
were there any places at UT or in Austin where you felt excluded?
Not at all. Not at all.
And did you participate in any other kind of school organizations or anything like that?
Just Graduate Business Council.
Uh-huh.
And I was an elected member of the Graduate Business
Oh,
Council.
wow. For both years?
For 1 year at least.
Second
yeah.
second year. Uh-huh.
And I enjoyed that.
Uh-huh. All right. And were there any other kinds of challenges?
No,
At UT?
the challenge was maintaining that B average. Yeah, the challenge was maintaining that B
But
average.
it sounds like you were, it sounds like you were able to do it.
Yes.
Okay, so anything more about UT or that experience?
No, it was a great experience.
So do you think that having gone to UT Business then had an impact? You said that IBM offered you a job,
Yes.
but you decided to go back
To Arthur Young.
to Arthur Young. What was the impact of your UT education on, your career moving forward from there?
The UT education, the impact on it was really, when I first went to Arthur Young coming out of Texas Southern, it was huge. It was huge. I mean, it was a new world for me. After I graduated from UT, I went back, and it wasn't the same. Especially after my UT experience. It wasn't as big. It wasn't as huge. I had learned so much in the Graduate School of Business, and I had gotten that Master's of Professional Accountancy. And so I didn't stay long at Arthur Young.
So before you move on from Arthur Young, so when you say it wasn't as big, is that because your attitude and your perception was different, or because they perceived you differently, or?
No, my attitude was different. My perception was different. Yeah, I had the master's degree,
Right, you had the...
and it wasn't new to me anymore. Yeah.
So, and is that one of the reasons why you didn't stay at Arthur Young? Did it
Yes.
seem-
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. It just wasn't the same as when I was there from my undergraduate days. And one of the things I tell young people about public accounting is that unless you want to be a partner, when you learn to think on your feet and you get all of those diverse experiences, and if you don't see yourself going to the partnership, go do something else. Yeah,
So how did that apply to you and the decisions you made?
that's exactly it. I didn't see myself wanting to be a partner. I didn't want to go, it wasn't the same as it was when I first went there. And so I went to do something else.
And what did you do?
I went to oil and gas company, and I was supposed to be an international internal auditor. And I went and got my passport the bottom fell out of the oil market, and they shipped me to Lafayette 5 days a week. And ultimately, I got laid off. But the time that they laid me off, I had just finished getting my securities license. And I went to work for the first African-American municipal finance firm in the great state of Texas. And
Named?
it was named United Daniels. And then from there, I formed with Commissioner Ellis and Richard Ramirez, the first African-American and Hispanic underwriting municipal finance firm in the state of Texas. It was called Apex Securities. And did that because I had the securities license that it was required in order to run a firm. And so we all came together. And from there, I went to work for First Boston as a consultant, not as a VP. And I went as a consultant so that they could see what I could do. And the next year I became a VP at First Boston in the Municipal Finance Department. And ultimately spent 26 years in municipal finance.
So it became your specialty.
That's right. That's right.
And so, just to take us back to UT one more second, because
Okay.
you remind me of something. So, Commissioner Ellis, clearly you know Clotilde.
Oh, I love Clotilde.
They were in
Commission.
school together.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of other, not a bunch, but significant. One of my friends, Rudy Green, was over in the law school just about the same time that I guess Commissioner Ellis was in law. No, he was in.
No, Rudy's behind.
Right, Rudy's behind a little bit,
Yeah,
right? Whittier and Rudy were in law school.
Well, see, Commissioner Ellis was in law school with Ron Kirk. And,
Right. Okay.
And they were all there around 77 to.
Right. So when you were here.
Yeah, when I was here. Yeah. 79, somewhere like that.
Did you know them at that time?
No, I didn't know him that well, but Commissioner Ellis, coming from TSU, I knew him.
Yeah. Huh. So there wasn't a kind of social grouping of you that.
Well, there was a social grouping for them in the law school. Again, I'm over in the business school. Yeah, different world, different group. Yeah.
Were there any other African Americans in the law school when you in the business school when you were there?
There was two. One lady from Beeville or somewhere like that, and then another guy that was a year ahead of me, and he went to work for an accounting firm in Dallas, and it was total of three of us.
So more in the law school than
Big
in
time.
school.
Yeah.
So you're pretty unique there.
I was kind of isolated over here.
Do you have any idea who the first African American was to get a business degree, an MBA?
No.
I don't know that either.
No.
And I know all these things.
And I don't know.
I need to look into that.
That just made me think, was I the first to get an MPA? No, I think the guy before me, I could have been the first.
Got an MPA or an MBA?
MPA.
MPA.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's a good question to ask.
Yeah, I need to.
And research.
Yeah.
Let me know the answer.
I will.
Yeah,
I'll look into it. All right, so you became vice president in Boston.
First Boston.
First Boston. Spent a number of years there.
I did.
And then
Then
how's the career round out? Well, it's not out yet.
Then from First Boston, I went to First Boston to.
And were you in Boston for that?
No.
I
I was
in Houston?
always in
Yeah,
Texas.
Right.
Always in Texas. First Boston to. They shut down, and I think I might have worked for Masterson, a local firm then, and then from there I went to a firm out of New York called First Albany, and then from there I ended up at the Royal Bank of Canada. So First Boston, Bear Stearns, Masterson, Royal Bank of Canada, somewhere in there. Those are the different firms I work with, not in that sequence.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And can you sprinkle your not sprinkle, but you got married and had kids,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
when you were at First Boston,
No,
is that?
I married with kids at United Daniels. Yeah. Making $2,000 a month, paying my own taxes, and my wife's pregnant. So, tough duty.
Yeah. I
Tough
guess
duty.
so.
Yeah. That was tight.
All right.
But we made it.
You did make it. You made it very well, evidently. You want to talk sort of in general about the role of education in your life?
Yes. Education is the great equalizer in our society. Education gives you an incredible amount of opportunities. If you get a great education, regardless of what it is, it gives you an opportunity to pursue your passion. It gives you an opportunity to be an entrepreneur, get a job if you want to, be creative in what you're doing. It just has so many advantages to it. Another piece of education that I love to talk to people about, and that is education has stair steps to it. When I say it has stair steps to it, as I stated, I didn't do that well in public school. I did a little better in undergraduate school, and I did even better in graduate school. And in each instance, I got a degree.
Yeah.
And so, education is critical for success and opportunity. And it gives you the ability, it's just a learning process. We always need to be continual learners. Again, as I stated, I wasn't an honor roll or the rocket scientist, but I can say this: I've been recognized for my commitment to education, healthcare, education, in a big way. One, my high school, I'm on the Phyllis Wheatley Wall of Fame. My undergraduate school, I'm an honorary PhD with a commencement speech at the undergraduate school. In my graduate school, I served on the Commission of 125, a distinguished alumni of the university,
That's right.
and now I'm fortunate and blessed to be a board of regent. How about that for
Quite a
education?
trajectory, I'm telling you.
How about that for education?
So, one of the questions here that seems like an important one to follow up with that. So, your decision to attend the University of Texas at Austin and all the other things that you've been involved in terms of education, made it possible for other African American students to attend and et cetera. What kind of advice do you have for the current generation?
The advice I would have for the current generation is pursue education to the max. Because whether liberal arts, whether technical, whether accounting, whether finance, whether history, all you're doing is improving yourself in order to pursue your passion. And passion is about life. And life should be about happiness. And you have to be educated in order to do that. And again, education does not stop with a degree. Education is a lifelong learning experience. So we're all on an education journey until the day we die.
You have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I really just want to say that we are all standing on the shoulders of others. As you talked about civil rights, as you talked about problems related to race and other things, the most important thing is that we all should be there to help one another and support one another. When I say we're standing on the shoulders of others, so many people sacrifice for us. Please, it would be selfish to not reach back and help others and give back. And I said this to my wife and my sons. They say, what do you want if you died today, what do you want people to say? I say, just simply call me a man of service. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. We have to give back to others, and we have to help others. Because as I sit here with this interview, what have we been talking about? The many ways that I received help from others to do what I'm doing today. And so it's so important, one, to get your education, two, to give back, and recognize the value of God, family, and friends.